Okay, all right. Here, welcome to another episode of the Ryan Holtz Show Podcast, the most explosive show on the planet. Our whole goal is to help you upgrade your life personally and professionally, and by doing that, we try to bring on some of the most amazing people the world has to offer. My next guest is nothing short of that statement. I am going to call him a Renaissance man because he is an actor. He is a Winnipeg alumni, maybe a PAL alumni in Winnipeg. If you are from Winnipeg, you know. I have Aleks Paunovic, who has been in movies like Van Helsing, Snowpiercer, Hawkeye, Personal Effects, and the list goes on and on. Also recent founder of a water company called Legend, which, if I'm not wrong, is sourcing water from our beautiful Canadian Rockies, which is very beautiful. Even though he is in Mexico right now having a cerveza, everybody deserves to have a little bit of fun. But Aleks, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me, man. This is a blast to be on. I've been following you for a while, and the guests that you have on, I'm privileged to be talking to you right now, and a pal bro too.
It's just really interesting because I'm not from Winnipeg, but I lived there for 1 year playing ball and stuff like that. And I lived literally in a building called Colony Square. It was above the Army Surplus. It was like on Portage and Balmoral. The street changed names like 6 times. It wasn't too far from Confusion Corner. But it's like, if you've spent any time in Winnipeg, you just never forget the experience of it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's something that I will always remember. I want to take you back. First of all, how did you come? You said, hey, I'm in Winnipeg. I'm going to start doing some, movies. But I kind of did a little digital deep dive, and I heard that in your heavy metal band you were playing at, you kind of got a big break, and you played Roddy McDowall's butler in the 1994 TV movie Heads. Does that sound on point?
That sounds totally on point. And it was insane because I was just playing in my band and really had no interest in acting. And so for me personally, when the opportunity came, I was playing in my band. Casting director asked if I wanted to audition for a gig, and I'm very much a yes guy. So I was like, yeah, I would love to give it a shot. I ended up getting the gig, and I ended up really enjoying that environment and being in that environment. I didn't tackle it right away. I just really enjoyed it. And it took me a few years to kind of take it seriously. And it's so interesting because you talk about, yes, I'm in Mexico right now, and by coincidence, at least 20 of my friends from Winnipeg, 4/5 of the band were there having a blast. And so we met a couple times and just had a blast, and I haven't partied with these guys in years. So we just had an amazing experience, just having a good time and catching up and bringing up old stuff. So it's been cool being in Mexico because I just finished a gig called Percy Jackson. And I needed to get a little vacation because it was a physically grinding gig. The people a part of the Percy Jackson franchise are phenomenal. So it was, I can't wait for people to see season 2 when it comes out. But yeah, I started acting just before the band broke up. I started doing a little bit of things here and there, mostly stunts. And when I made the move to Vancouver, I was on my way to Los Angeles. I was going to stop in Vancouver to see how the industry was there, to try to get an agent. And then 9/11 happened, and so I couldn't go to Los Angeles, so I stayed in Vancouver and kind of built my resume, got my agent, got my manager, and kind of did the slow roll into acting, which was great. Started studying a ton because I felt like I had a lot to catch up on. Amazing acting schools and teachers in Vancouver. And then I ended up going to Los Angeles for a good 7 years, and then made my way back to Vancouver, just because I just felt like the opportunities were a little bit better for me, and I developed a very core group of good friends there. So now I just really split my time more than anything, but I basically call Vancouver home.
Interesting. How is, coming from Winnipeg, how did you start in Winnipeg? Did your family immigrate over there? Like, where did Winnipeg come from for you guys? Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, Winnipeg was basically, so my parents wanted to immigrate from the old Yugoslavia, and they didn't want to go to the U.S. because they were just in the midst of a Vietnam War. And then Sydney was too far, and so Canada was safe. And unfortunately, they went to the guy that kind of places you in Italy, and I think it was in Italy, and said, where do you want to go in And they said, well, Winnipeg is the farthest south, so that's probably hot there. So let's put you in Winnipeg. And unbeknownst to them, Winnipeg was not hot. And so we kind of had to stay. We stayed there because that was the first place. And they kind of built their lives there in Winnipeg. And they're still there. They spend their summers here in Mexico. That's who I'm visiting. And yeah, that's how it basically worked out.
Really interesting too, because your family comes from a really big boxing background, and that's why I kind of opened up by calling you a Renaissance man, because I'm like, how does somebody box, play in a heavy metal band, act, found a water company? Like, you're like I don't know if you're like the character that is fear of missing out. Like you said, you say yes a lot. Like, break that down for me. Is that just your personality where you get bored, or you like to be diverse in what you're doing?
It's more about being diverse in what I'm doing, and new experiences and new challenges, and, you develop new friendships. I would rather try something and learn something than just say no to it and not experience any of what could be a really great opportunity or something that I can learn from. So for me, boxing, my dad was a boxer of, all his younger years. He was on his way to the Olympics before he had an injury that actually had him go to Canada, where they went, okay, we can't do the Olympics, so it's time to move. So I boxed all my life just because of my dad. And and then the band stuff came because I developed a great friendship with these guys. And so I started playing in a band. And that to me was something that I've always kind of done, even with roles that have come my way. It's things of, people didn't think I could do the gig. For instance, Personal Effects was a gig where I loved the opportunity to try to get that gig because it really had nothing to do with my size. And I get a lot of gigs because of my size. And I get that. And I try to give more than what they expect of me. But Personal Effects was a mentally challenged guy that was accused of killing Ashton Kutcher's sister in the film. And the casting director was really looking at me going, oh, Aleks Paunovic can play this role. I really had to earn it. And I pushed myself to get into that audition room. And I was one of the last people to go into that audition room. And when the opportunity came in front of the director and the producers and the casting director, it was something that I just felt so confident that I knew I could do it, but I had to put myself in that position as opposed to just waiting for the audition to come to me. I had to force my way into a lot of rooms just so I could get the stigma and the stereotype that I'm not just the bouncer number two. So I earned my way that way. And also, taking a lot of acting classes and trying a lot of things, and my coaches putting things on the table for me going, let's see where you can take this character. Again, it's just putting myself in a position where people don't expect of me and seeing what happens. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You try and try again. And that's what this industry is about. I try not to get jaded over anything. And I love, like, when I have an audition and I have so many great friends, I'll be like, oh my God, so-and-so is great for this role. I'm going to call him up. Are you going out for this? Because you should definitely go out for this. I love seeing my friends succeed, and it kind of comes back to me.
You gained 65 pounds or something like that for that role in Personal Effects as well. What kind of ritual, do you have any unusual, weird rituals to prepare for roles, especially the ones that are, physically and mentally demanding?
That's a great question. Usually what I love to do is first I get my own essence of what I think the character is. Okay. And coming from a boxing background and playing in music, it's all about a team for me. With boxing, yeah, you're in the ring, but there's a lot of training that happens and sparring partners that help you, coaches that help you. So I then try to find some great coaches that understand the language that I'm talking. And it took a while there's a lot of cerebral acting coaches. I don't really fall into that category. I'm more of a emotional actor. And then I found there's an amazing acting coach named Larry Moss. And Larry Moss, it was really all about script analysis and putting yourself into the role, an emotional feeling into the role. So that's where I try to head to. And a lot of times I figured out this a little bit late when I'm nervous for something, or either on an audition or a big scene coming up. Obviously preparation is key, but I still get a little tight. And then I realized shadowboxing, it's the same feeling as if I was going into a fight. The more relaxed you are, the more accessible you are to your talents. So the more relaxed I am when I'm shadowboxing, the more little branches of inspiration starts coming to me during the scenes and during the piece that I'm doing. I think a cool little thing that I like to do is just shadow box, and ideas come to me when I'm doing that, even if it's minutes before the scene, because I'm already prepared for it. And then it's just, okay, I'll try some different stuff and make sure that I'm present, because when I'm in the scene, I feel like that's the fight, and I just have to. Yeah, I love improv. I love being ready for an improv, and so the only way to do that is listen. Make sure you're listening and make sure you're prepared. And I think boxing helped me a lot with that. And music, the musicality of a scene. I really understand well, like where the note starts, the crescendo. Okay, a chorus is going to come here. So I try to put that all into the performances that I try to do.
It's so interesting because I think about it, because the actor Terry Crews, he talks a lot about how he kind of got his role where, he worked a lot of security. So he got to, figure out who talent managers were, and he'd be on sets. And the movie Training Day, which is one of my favorite, but that scene, where Denzel starts going off about King Kong, that was mostly improv. And Terry Crews literally said he was standing there. His friend said, look, they're going to be filming in Baldwin Hills. You should come down. You can watch. And he's like, of course, I watch Denzel. Of course I can. And he said, the director literally said, yo, dude, you're big. Take off your shirt. You're going to get in the scene. And that's how literally he kind of got his, quote unquote, big break. But you said something really clutch in that the more relaxed you are, the more you can access your talents. I think of everybody I've spoke to, I've never heard that sentence or those sequence of words. Like, you have to unpack that, because that's a Jedi mind trick, what you just said there.
Well, and it took repetition for me to really understand it. One of the most poignant moments for me, I was doing a play, and a friend of mine, one of my best friends, Tom O'Pennicott, who was in Battlestar Galactica, and he was a phenomenal actor, and we were joking. We always take the piss out of each other. And he was basically going, Aleks, you're really not an actor unless you do a play, because he did a few plays. And I was like, shut up, man. I'm an actor, man. And so I did this play called Danny and the Deep Blue Sea. And Danny and the Deep Blue Sea is a powerful two-hander of emotion and violence and vulnerability and anger, violence. And it's such a unbelievable play by Patrick Shanley. And that's where I kind of like sat into the idea of really trying to find the avenues that make it happen within that play. And because I've never done a play, right before the play started, I couldn't believe how nervous I was, Ryan. I was so nervous. And then when I just decided to shadow box. Not because, maybe this will work. I just needed to loosen up. Because right before I started shadowboxing, I was literally in my brain going, I don't even remember my first line. Ooh. What am I going to do? And I started tightening up. What the hell is the first line?
Yep.
And then I started shadowboxing, and I saw the whole play. Not just the first line, I saw the whole play. And that's when I realized, for me personally, once I'm relaxed, and whatever you can do as an actor to put you in that relaxed state, in your body, I think that's the key. It's not just mental, it's a physical thing. Once you get there physically, your mind opens up. And that's when I realize there's so much I can access right now. Because now I'm not just listening to the voice in my head, not remembering the dialogue. I'm now seeing the whole play and seeing the audience. I'm visualizing. That's what I used to do as a boxer. So the visualization aspect, it's just so key to relax. And I basically think of it as you see a tree with no branches. Once you're relaxed in your body and mind, the branches are all there. You just know that now you're a full tree. You're not just a stump. And that's what helped me really kind of get through that stuff. So I try to do any actor should try to find that piece amongst them when they're trying to do something, because obviously preparation is the key, and you got to go through that, whatever your journey is, going through the preparation. Huge. But then when the performance happens, I think that's where you have to find your spot of what makes you drop into the character to listen. Because if I'm in my head while I'm boxing, I'm not going to understand the next punch that's coming. I'm not going to react as fast. I'm not going to do any of that. The only time I can do that, and it's such a high tense situation because somebody's about to punch me in the face. Like, it's a high tense situation. But the only way to get through that is relaxing and just seeing the stuff coming. So
dude,
that,
man,
to me, was
that's like
something
a flow
that really
state.
accesses a lot of my creativity.
That's like a flow
state.
Flow
That's
state,
exactly
man.
it.
You
Flow state.
you can
Flow
tell
state.
when people are just it's just like, you know, taking candy from a baby in that moment. They're just in the mix. You know, I love that, and it's what's really interesting is whether it's sports or it's acting or business or interviewing, those endorphins, you know, when you're stepping on that stage, whatever that stage is for you, you know, and that feeling is unmatched. It's euphoric, right? And so, you know, when you're in that stage, and I always like to say, like, on our show, we promote growth. Like, mediocrity to me is like cancer. There's so much mediocrity in the world that I find it just, I call it like lack of growth obesity, like in the sense of I can't stand when people don't try to at least attempt to hit their actual maximum, you know? And I try to encourage people by doing the show and all those things. So when you're describing, you know, being in that flow state, I think people who are listening can really take a lot from that. You've worked with some incredible actors. Would you say that a lot of people try to go there, or every actor's different? They kind of have all their own. Does anybody step off the bus and just like go put down a Hollywood performance? Like, have you ever worked with people like that where you're like, this person just comes off the bed and can kill it, like, or no?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a guy that I worked with, Christian Kane, who's on Leverage. He's done quite a bit of things. And we did a film called, The Fall of Enron. And, the kid never took an acting class in his life. And to watch him work is just a flow state. He just gets it. And wow. I get pissed off at him. I'm like, you haven't done any work with this as in like teachings and stuff, but he just understands character. He understands himself really well. And to watch somebody just drop it like that, I salute it. And for me, I think personally, just coming from that fighting background and the band background, I really sit into, you know, I understand who I am, and now where can I get inspiration and other ideas from to put into my character? And just learn. It took me a minute to really kind of get comfortable with who I was as an actor, playing in a band with a bunch of guys, and you know, they were the band. I was just having a blast contributing how I can contribute. But when you're alone up there and trying to contribute, at first it was quite scary for me. But then starting to go, okay, well, wait a second. Like one of the key moments that I had in acting was every time our band used to play. And we never played this place before. We would go, let's say, to Edmonton, and we're in the bar, and it's just before our first set. The bar's packed. Nobody knows who I am, who I am yet. So when I walk in, I own the bar. I just feel it in my bones. I own the bar because they're about to see our band kick ass. And I remember buying just pictures for tables, just going, hope you enjoy the show. And they have no idea who I am. Like, who's this big guy that just bought me a picture? There was just so much confidence walking into that bar because I knew I was prepared to blow them away with my band. And then when I started auditioning, I was getting nervous. Palms were sweaty. Like walking in and not doing a great performance because I was self-conscious. And I remember talking to myself going like, okay, what's going on? What's different here? And I went, oh my God, this is no different than me walking into the bar when I used to do it forever. So I started bringing that attitude into the room. And as opposed to looking for the job, I was basically giving them a gift of what I gave them a gift of my performance. You can either take it or leave it, but that was what I'm giving to you. If I get a call, great. If I don't, I don't. But I just gave you something, and I can walk away from it because I feel confident. I'm not always going to get the gig. It's so hard to get the gig. But knowing that I'm just dropping something on your table and not asking for something changed the whole idea of getting into the audition room, and it made it more fun.
That's a complete mindset shift too, right? When you really think about it. Because you're putting yourself almost in not an advantageous role. Like even though you're the one going in, it's kind of like sales too, right? If you're trying to sell a product and whoever you're trying to sell it to, you're making yourself like the number 2 or 3 in that transaction. People can smell that. Whereas if you walk in saying like, look, this is your problem. My solution's awesome. Check it out. Deuces. They're like, oh, well, that was different, right? Like I always believe like a good salesperson, you never like the best sale you'll ever feel is the one you didn't even know you were in, right? I mean, you walk away thinking like, holy crap, this person just sold me.
That's exactly it.
Right? And they're serendipitous. I'm a big brand person. I own a branding and marketing. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there are certain situations There were certain situations where I had like, oh my God, I killed this audition. I've got this gig. I killed it. That they were responsive, everything, never got it. I walk into an audition, flub up some lines. I feel like they're looking at me, please get out of the room. And I'm in my head. I walk out, I get the role. So you just never know how they're going to receive what you're doing. So you might as well just really throw it down and just try to forget about it. When you're first starting, it's hard to do. I think anybody that hears this type of advice, just know you're going to be going into the room starting off at the bottom, and you have to go through those moments. I think the key is experience those failures yourself. You can't learn the failures from me. You just can clock it and go, okay, now I know what he's talking about. I understand what he's talking about now. Now I need a shift. This is my epiphany. This is my epiphany moment. And those are the things that you can only do that if you allow yourself that vulnerability moment and access to see other things coming in, as opposed to being so negative about the industry and why am I never getting into gigs? How come I can't book? Why can't I have? You just got to put it out there and just see where it drops and keep moving, you know?
Yeah, it is interesting, like, because, you know, people out there, they always have these ideas, you know, they want to write a book or they want to do certain things, like, you know, even for us, people are like, Ryan, you know, like, what drove you to start your show? And I've just always been a person, like, I'm a true entrepreneur where, you know, I just thought if I can see it, like, I'm a big visualizer. And so if I can see it, I know it's real. Then I kind of reverse engineer that thought and say, what is it going to take me to get there? And then you reverse engineer those steps, right? And then I call myself a savage servant, where I'm like, well, now it's going to come down to character, because I'm not going to be beat on my own merit. Like, if you're going to beat me, you're going to have to beat the crap out of me. And if I lose, I'm okay with that. Because my mom always said, Ryan, if I find out that you made a mistake and it was like half stepping, I'm going to be upset. But if I find out that you made a mistake, you're going full out, you got my blessing. And so that's always been kind of my mentality. It's kind of like your audition, where if you go in there and you audition, and I'm sure you might, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but maybe in your early days you auditioned, but you auditioned based on what you thought they wanted rather than Alex going into audition. If you didn't get the gig, you'd be more pissed off because you're like, well, that wasn't even really me auditioning. That's it, right?
Yeah, that's totally it. I mean, if you sit there and you go, I got to give them what they want on the page, then you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Ooh.
I mean, we're all trying to go into there and trying to get the gig, but no one's gonna do an audition the way I can do it. No one's gonna duplicate me. So I might as well put me on the page as opposed to trying to be somebody that they wrote. And if it's my interpretation that they like and going, oh, I never thought about this guy throwing the dialogue this way or being connected to it this way, I can see how it works in the piece, even though it's not written on the page. Those are and I really think, because I've been on the other side of the table where I've cast some people for a short film or a feature that I was doing, and it's always the surprise that gets me. So it's like, whoa, I never thought that kind of character was actually this page, but it works so well. He just gave me so many ideas. I want the actor to come in and have all their ideas to make the project better. And if that happens, it's less work for the director and for the writer to know that somebody's coming in owning a role with their own ideas. And that's a beautiful place to be, and a beautiful, confident place to be. And sometimes, I mean, for me, it took a minute to get there. Other people drop right in, but it's just clocking. How can I get better? What can I let go of ego-wise? And what can I accept? It's those key moments and key times in your life where to figure it out to where you go.
Well, you seem grateful, though, like looking at your social media and stuff like that. You just seem grateful, like, to be where you are. Like, you have a gratitude that comes around you where you're excited. Like, and you're super humble too, which I think is phenomenal. And so if somebody says, hey, what's the Aleks Paunovic brand? Because I'm a big brand person, and the definition of brand is how you make people feel, full stop. Some of the biggest brands in the world, they make you feel something. And I think acting, like, you probably do a lot of public speaking. I do as well. But my goal when I step on a stage is I literally walk into the room saying, I want 50% of these motherfuckers to hate me, and I want 50% of these guys to love me by the end of my talk. If none of that happens, I screwed up. There was nothing remarkable from that. So you going to auditions and kind of living your life the way you do, I mean, what is that kind of focus where when you walk into something now, what is the aim? Like, what is that intensity that in your mind you're like, I want to kill this? Like, what does that look like in your brain?
I feel like for me, one of the biggest things is because I'm already a big guy and an intimidating guy, there's immediately a little bit of a little bit of a step back. And I get that. I got that ever since I was young. When I was in my metal band, I had long hair and my leather jacket. I would have like people crossing the street because they didn't want to come in contact with me. Meanwhile, my heart is so big. I'm walking down the street with a smile and thinking to myself, okay, if you just keep smiling, they'll hopefully walk past you and you'll say, oh, he just walked across the street. Like it's one of those things, right? So for me, when I present myself in a room or in an audition, it's easy for me to play the thug and be an intimidate. A lot of my roles are those, mafia types,
Yes.
or I love when I do a short film, or an indie or something. I don't want to do the same gig that I usually get cast for. And I think everybody's typecast in a certain way. Like you'll never see Tom Cruise playing a Russian thug. It just won't happen. No, it's not going to be believable.
Yeah.
He's typecast in a certain way. So for me, what I want to come across and go like, I'm 6'5", 265 pounds, and I'm not pigeonholed in this frame of my body. I want to experience, I want to fail, I want to succeed. The only way to go through the gamut of life is to just take the chance. What do you want to do? Why can't you do it? What's the worst that can happen? So find out your little avenue to get there. My avenue is going to be different from your avenue. So my brand, the idea of my brand is mostly, I want people walking away going, I can fucking do this. I can do this. Like if that guy can do this, I can do this. And the size, people talk about it. Oh, it must be an advantage for you to get these. It's not, because there's an energy that comes with it. There's an intelligence that comes with getting roles. And anybody that books a role, there's an intelligence that comes with it. So it's not just a physicality. It's how you present yourself. And when I'm talking to kids coming up, because when I was coming up, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I was scared what was out in the world for me. Am I going to fall into a bad crowd and all of a sudden be in jail? Am I going to follow people that may not treat me as well as I would want to be treated? So for me, there was this, especially because my brother's a doctor. He knew what he wanted to do when he was like 5 years old. I was still trying to search it. And all I knew is that I loved making people feel a certain way. And making people feel a certain way was my gift that I can give to the world, that I can put somebody in a position to go, well, that was awesome. I want to be able to do that. I may be 5'4", but I want to play a tough guy. You can play a tough guy. Yeah. It's the energy that's there. Look at Joe Pesci. Yeah. Like, what an amazing experience that he came up with because he understood who he was. So that idea for me is I want people walking out of the room going, I didn't get half the things he said, but I really love the fact of just going for it. If you go for it, you're not going to have any regrets. As you said, mediocrity is the devil, man. Yeah. Mediocrity is the devil. And so getting through your own personal demons, getting through your stuff to just get through that comfortable space into the uncomfortable and either fail or succeed. And you realize on the other side, I'm still here. I mean, for boxing, I would get punched in the face if I made a mistake. Everywhere outside of boxing, I'm not getting punched in the face, so I might as well go and give it a shot, So that's kind of where I love kind of being.
Yeah, it's very inspirational. And Winnipeg really loves you. I mean, you go back there and you can feel the love that city gives you. And there's a certain pride factor. I just found it funny because you're from Winnipeg, and I just, again, the Canadians and the PAL and all these, because, and I hope, people, I know I got some people from Winnipeg that listen to the show, and I'm like, I love Winnipeg. I got, it's just a special place there, except for the big mosquitoes and the Arctic pole temperatures in winter on Portage and Maine.
Right.
Listen, if you were to, when you're getting into the, when you're going into the celebrity world now, so you're coming from Winnipeg, and obviously very humble. When you got into that world, did you ever have moments thinking, oh my God, what am I doing socializing with this person, or I'm not of this status? Or are you of the opposite mindset where you say, hey, we're all human, we're all as temporary as the next person? Like, what was your mindset coming into that? Because a lot of people, they don't take the shot because they don't feel like they belong in that room.
Yeah, no, for me, it was, again, I was groomed at a very early age playing with my band since we were 15 in clubs and talking to people and meeting people and getting people to stay and watch the band. And then we would go to like watch other bands and going in there and talking to people and getting them to come to our shows. So for me, like, it was funny. I was talking with my mom about this. It was like, you always went out. Like, even when I wasn't gigging, I always went out because I was always socializing. In her eyes, it was like, you're always going to party. In my eyes, I was networking. I was getting people to come and watch us play. And so getting into Los Angeles and getting into Hollywood, and I think I've already greased those wheels in Winnipeg that really helped me socialize in that way. And I felt like I did belong, and I had a great time doing it. And listen, man, I love getting starstruck. I love working with somebody. Like when I worked with Anthony Hopkins, I was like, I can't believe I'm about to do a scene with Anthony Hopkins. This is insane.
Mama, I made it. Mama, I made it.
Fangirl. Just don't fangirl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you this too, though, Alex. Okay,
like,
here's what.
Don't fangirl.
But hold on. Here's the. Okay, let's talk about social.
Go.
Let's talk about social etiquette in these situations. Okay. You know, you want to go into a room. Again, it's that energy shift. It's like that sales. You know, you want to go in showing respect. But then you don't want to go in looking like that, 16-year-old dude that's just like a fan. Because the respect, even when you talk to like A-list celebrities, they'll be honest with you and they'll say, look, I get enough of that. I get a lot of people asking me for autographs and going crazy. And this is why I, go in back doors of restaurants and try to, disguise. But they'll always say, like, sometimes I just kind of want to have somebody that I respect too, or is almost like a friend or wants to bring something to the table. How did you navigate kind of going between, man, this is Anthony Hopkins, I respect this person, but I also want Anthony Hopkins to know what's up with Alex?
Yeah, so for me, I realized getting out of the way right away is what works the best, because I love the fact, and I put the mirror on it. I love when people come up to me and recognize me or want to have a picture or something. I personally dig it, and because I'll throw it back. When I was in Winnipeg, the Winnipeg Jets, this is the story that, and I didn't think about this story a few years ago, and I was like, oh my God, that was the pinnacle of it. This is where it was. So Winnipeg Jets, big fan. I'm 10 years old. My favorite hockey player was Serge Savard, and he played for the Montreal Canadiens. He got traded to the Winnipeg Jets, and now it's his first game. I'm watching him on his warm-up, doing circles, like skating the ice. I'm right at the glass going, oh my God, like this is awesome. And he comes off after the warm-up, and I'm right by the glass where they walk by, and all the man did was look at me, smile, and give me a little wink. I lit up, and I'm still telling that story right now because that's how much it affected me. For him, it was nothing. He just winked at a kid because a kid looked at him and he was generous, giving him something back. That's how it made me feel, and it makes me feel that to this day of like, what a great little moment I had. Even it was so small. So for me, anybody that recognized me, wants a picture, if it can make a little bit of a brighter day for somebody because they watched Van Helsing for 5 years, they love my character, whatever it is, that's what lights me up, because I was on the other side of that. Now with Hopkins, it was one of those moments for me where I was like, I got to tell him, like, look, man, I'm a crazy fan. I'm stoked to be working with you. Actually, I'm lying right now. I'll tell you exactly how it went down. This is how it went down.
Okay, good.
I knew I was about to do a scene. I knew I was about to do a scene with him, and I'm obviously nervous and stoked. And we were inside a warehouse, and I'm looking at the door, and it was winter out. So the AD comes up to me and says, so Tony's on his way in. I'm like, okay, keep your shit together. And the door opens up, and literally a silhouette of Anthony Hopkins in that door frame. And I'm like, oh my God, there's the man. And he's walking towards me. So I slowly turn my back to him because I don't want to see me staring at him. So I slowly turn my back, and I'm in my head, I'm going, keep it cool. And the AD goes, Alex, this is Tony. You guys are going to be working together. And I'm like, what's up? And I turn back around, and I'm like, no. I'm so sorry. I'm just a big fan. I kind of overplayed that. So I just want you to know I'm a big fan. I'm really stoked to be working with you. He starts laughing. We have a sit down, and that broke the ice right away. And then he goes, "Oh, you're a big guy. What do you do?" And I tell him I used to box, and he loved boxing, and he used to box, and we had this conversation going. And all I can think about in my head is, please, no AD, interrupt this conversation, because I'll never get this jam session with this legend. And then finally, the director goes, "Okay, we need to shoot the scene." So as we're going to shoot the scene, Tony just basically goes, "Alex, are you okay with improvising the scene?" Yes, I would love to improv the scene. So we do the scene a couple times. We're improvising. He comes back and he goes, "Hey, make sure you say that thing because it helps me bring up the gun quicker." I'm like, "Okay, but you got to say that other thing." So I say that thing. We ended up having an amazing time, creative jam session time with that thing. And then afterwards, this is where it blows my mind. Afterwards, he goes, "Alex, put your number into my phone. I want to keep in contact with you." And now I'm shaking my head going, I'm putting my phone in Anthony Hopkins' phone. This is crazy. And by the time I got to my hotel, he sent me this wonderful text of like, "So great and fun working with you today. Thanks so much. I'll see you tomorrow." That was it for me, man. Like that, those are the kind of things where if it's authentic, I just go with it. Like if it's authentic, you're not crossing any boundaries. You're still conscious of the work that you have to do. Get what you have to do out of the way and then get back to work. And that's kind of helped me throughout my career. Like Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is one of the best dudes I've ever met, and that was basically how we kind of bonded, of just music and, you know, a couple big guys, and he wanted to direct. He was saying he wanted to direct, you know, just when he was acting on Stargate, and I just have so much admiration for the dude going after exactly what he went after and succeeding. And you know, we still have tons of love for each other, and I just love the way his success is going. And that kind of stuff just motivates me. Watching him do what he did with his water made me think about, oh man, that's a really good, interesting thing. Yeah, you're right. The single use plastic bottles are like the death to people that in the water industry and to people. So I was just curious. I know I'm slipping into something else right now, but I was just curious about it when I got to set, and I was like, yeah, man, there's a lot of single-use plastic bottles everywhere. And talked to a friend of mine, opportunity arose. He had a water source. We decided to get into business with each other, and Legend was born. And I don't think Legend would have been born without Jason Momoa.
Wow.
So I'm very thankful for him.
Well, let's segue into that. So this is Canadian Rockies. My home right now, I'm talking to you I'm literally about an hour and a half from Canmore. Have you heard of Invermere or Panorama Ski Hill? Does those names ring a bell?
Yeah.
So I have a home right around there. So when I heard Canadian Rocky Water, I was like, oh man, that's right in my neck of the woods. What has been, I guess, what has got you excited about the water brand that you launched? And I mean, struggles, anything that came of that we don't know publicly that you're like, holy crap, did not know that this would, you know, be X, Y, or Z, or has it been a smooth ride so far?
Well, we've been really, really lucky because, you know, Liquid Death is an amazing inspiration for us too. Like they absolutely cornered the market on it. And for us, we didn't think there was a lot of competition in that aspect of it. And the guys that I'm partnered with, James, John, and Allison, and Mark, and there's like amazing friends. And I've known James for over 30 years, so we already had a deep friendship. And this opportunity came up, and it was one of those things for me personally, being on set and seeing these plastic bottles, and then seeing what Legend's done, or what Liquid Death has done, and the idea that there's so many people that aren't drinking as much as they did 20 years ago. And water is a very popular brand in bars right now because a lot of sober people just want to go out, but they don't want to hold a plastic bottle. So for us, was like something cool in your hand that you can go out and feel like you're still a part of the party.
No sippy cups.
That was a big thing for us. And, you know, Liquid Death cornered the very kind of metal. Yeah, exactly. That cornered the metal and kind of punk vibe with their can, which looks amazing. So we went premium and kind of higher class and a sleek look. And we just thought, well, why not give it a shot? And, you know, I have some friends that had some problems with addiction. So one of the things that we have on the can is a QR code. that says Legends Supporting Legends. And it goes to our website, but also goes to a suicide crisis hotline and rehab facilities all over the country, which we're going to be expanding on. We do charity events. This summer, we're going to be doing a few rehab charity events. So the idea that we can get the can out there into people's hands, into hospitality situations, that it's just something nice in your hand, clean water in aluminum that can be 100% recyclable. And we're doing something for the earth. We're doing something for our friends. And that's something that I just love the idea of going to that route with people that I've known for years. And so far, we just got into 600 7-Elevens, which we're really excited about.
That's phenomenal.
And that should be happening the beginning to end of next month. And I just want to do events to get people on board. And if one person hits that QR code because they're going through something, I'm stoked and I'm happy. And that also allows us to do charity events. Either sponsor something, do a water sponsor giving out 300 cans, and having just people notice it. And we were so fortunate the name Legend came, because it's like young legends. Anybody can be a legend. Watching a classic band like ZZ Top play with Legend cans on the stage, it just makes sense. Like that kind of stuff really kind of worked with our ideology of what Legend is all about.
I love that. That's great. LA. So Vancouver's your home more now, you would say, and then you're dipping into LA. How important is it?
Yeah.
I mean, proximity, they say proximity is power. And so now we're living in the virtual world, and I love virtual and all that as well. I think I'm somewhat of an introvert too, to be honest with you, even though when it's stage time, like I just love to go out there and kill it. But I feel like I give so much energy. When it's time to chill, I got to get my energy back. And so when you go to LA, Vancouver, I mean, how much of it do you think is very important to get in people's physical space? Like you said, networking, talking to people. Do you think virtual is replacing some of that, or do you think that is still an advantage for people that are actively doing that?
I think it's really interesting in the way, obviously before COVID, it was always going into the room and that's how you did your auditions. And sometimes it's a disservice, not only to the actor, but also to the casting director, because I might have, especially during back then when they had pilot season, I would have 5 auditions, like 5 pages, 8 pages, 4 pages in one day. And I'm driving around to these different casting directors trying to lay my best work down for them. And I think it's a disservice because you just can't. You can't put your best work down when you have 5 other characters in your head changing in your car as you get to the next one. And okay, which audition is this? Oh man, I'm reading the wrong dialogue. And I think sometimes it's a disservice. What I love about the room is, in a perfect world for me personally, I take my time, I put my audition down on tape. If I do get a bite and they do enjoy it, that's when I would love to get into the room, meet the director, meet the producer, let's work the scene, direct me. Like, I love redirection, because that's basically the idea of what an actor does. That's why the director is called the director. It's like, here's what I'm bringing to the table. You know what? Let's try to go a different way with this. Great. Redirect me. That's what I think the callback is for. And that's where I think you really get to see who these guys are. And they're doing some on Zoom too, but I personally love to be in the room. We can feel each other's energy. But I like that as a callback. But going after COVID, that's kind of happening more and more now. But I do love networking. And again, that's one of my strengths. I love meeting people. I love finding out about people. I love listening to people. And a lot of those networking opportunities happen when you do book the gig. So now that I've gotten in with booking this gig, and not just sitting in my chair in between shots, but actually meeting people and talking to them. And again, just because I just finished the gig, Percy Jackson was one of the best shows that I've worked on, because the producers were so viable and so open-minded and willing to chat, and the director was that way. The leads in that show, these kids in Percy Jackson, are phenomenal actors. And so just networking in that way, and then unbeknownst to me, 2 of the executive producers on Percy Jackson were also a part of C. And C was a gig that I did with Jason Momoa. So they remembered me from that and offered me the gig in Percy. So it's those relationships that you go, am I good to work with on set? Can I hit my mark? Do I know my lines? And what am I contributing to the project? And if I can do those things, regardless if I get a call back from somebody that I worked with, regardless of any of that, I want to be able to do those things and leave that place going, that guy made our job easier. And sometimes it doesn't all work that way. Sometimes you just got to go in and do your stuff because you're not gelling, but just do what you have to do to get the job done. And if there's moments, as opposed to forcing moments on set, just organically be there. And if things happen, things happen. So I've been really fortunate in that way to really meet some amazing people and work with people again. Yeah, I feel so lucky, man. I feel really lucky because at the end of the day, there's like 10, like for Hawkeye, there's supposedly like 5,000 people all over the world looking for that role and that group. And to get picked as one of those guys it could have been so many other people, and they could have done just as good of it as a job, and no one would even know I was in the picture.
Yep.
And so to even have that opportunity that I could be there, grateful.
It really, it's really interesting because one, I call it a life hack is, I think there's levels to the game. Do you want to be, it's kind of like, are you the player? Are you the coach? Are you the owner? Are you the fan? Which level are you going? And I think when you look at these levels of life, you're really trying to ascertain who do you want to be and how do you get there. I think my point in saying that is, if you don't know, sometimes you can just be the host. And so people that are the host, like even podcasting and shows, one of the unfair advantages of people that have their own show is you can be the host. You can talk to Alex. You can say, hey, Alex, tell me what you think. Tell me where you're going with it. And you sound like you've been a phenomenal, obviously, actor, but you're an amazing host. And those two are giving you opportunities both ways. And I find this interesting in that, a lot of people, again, they ask questions like how, success does leave clues. So people who are listening to this, I think it's like one thing to be an actor, but I think where you really excel and you go out there and get your own opportunities, but you're an amazing host. And you're literally saying, like, I'm not just sitting my butt on the chair in between takes. I'm getting out there and networking with different people. And even auditioning, I guarantee, like, you're somebody that even if you didn't get one role, you leave an impact that when another role comes up, these people are like, hey, who was that guy we had for the last one? Maybe we should call him back up because you're leaving that mark. Speak to the hack speak to that for me so that people can really understand that, quote unquote skill or life hack.
I mean, for me, I think everybody naturally has their Superman quality. You know what I mean? Like they naturally have it. It's just pulling it up. It's digging it and then championing it. For me, I personally realized I'm that guy that gets the team pumped in the dressing room. I'm that guy that will like he's a dressing room type of player that gets everyone on the same team. Okay, we had a bad period. This is what we have to do. You guys are killing it, but let's watch this. I like to get the team moving. And then once we get out there, we're a team. I'm very much a team guy. I like the idea of hosting, but I also love the idea of sitting back and watching stuff happen and putting myself into where I'm needed. So for me, like it's literally finding the things that I think everybody knows they excel in something, but are too scared to actually excel in it. So find that moment of where you're like, oh my God, that felt good and I contributed to something. That's what you have to nurture. That's what you have to champion. That to me is, it took a minute to find it, but I love it. I was a bass player in a band. I didn't write the songs. Tony and Ham and those guys wrote the songs, but I love adding to the songs. And now the song, what they brought to it was the skeleton, and then the rest of the band brings the meat, and now we have this beautiful looking song and feeling song because everyone contributing. That's where I feel like I excel. That's why, being part of a project in a film, the bones are already there. Where can I put the meat? The meat, that's where I want to build on your idea so we can be a team and make this thing excel. So that to me is like when you talk about life hack, it's find out that little nugget that makes you feel a certain way. And you see, not only does it make you feel a certain way, but you've had an impact on people on a certain way. And that felt good too. So what is that and how do you nurture it? How do you feed that? How do you bring good into the world and keep moving forward? Find that.
You, my friend, sound like a gatherer. The question of are you a hunter or gatherer? You're definitely somebody who's a gatherer. And you're awesome. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. It's really interesting because you are self-aware. Man, you are self-aware. Like, have you always been very introspective, kind of looking at who Aleks is as a kid? Because you told the story about your dad who was in a slump in a certain part of your life, and you took him out to the boxing gym, and you said, like, my dad, I could have went two ways, and it went the good way, and it just gave him that spark again. That's so empathetic. It's a very serving way, like, to be able to truly put yourself in somebody else's shoes and try to figure out how they feel and then what you can do about that. I mean, the world needs more of that, man. Like, there's a lot of selfish people out here. You are obviously a giver. Have you always been that way? Like, or is that just, did you come out of the production facility just like that?
I feel like I've always been that way, but it was dormant. I didn't know how to access it. I didn't know where it was and how I could duplicate it. When it happened when I was younger, I knew it made me feel good, but I didn't know how to get it. And I think, a lot, man, like when I moved from Winnipeg to Vancouver with absolutely nothing. I just told this story the other day. And because one of my friends of 30 years from high school, he goes, my friend Roger, he goes, did you just go to Vancouver because you had a gig? I was like, no, I had nothing. I quit my band. I had no money. A friend of mine, Scully, was living in Vancouver. I asked if I can crash with him. They had no room, so he ended up putting his bed in the living room, and his roommate had the other room, and he gave me the small room. And all I had was a foam mattress and a crate, and I bought a VHS for $300, but that I had to do on payment because I couldn't pay $300. And that's all I had in my room. And I don't mind saying this, but it was one of those things. And you got to remember, I'm in my 30s at this point. Okay. I'm not a kid. I'm in my 30s at this point, thinking about that. I have to change my life. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. And those guys had to get up early each morning. The bathroom was quite loud. The toilet was quite loud. I would pee in a Gatorade bottle so I didn't disturb them. So I wouldn't get, hey, you know what, man, you're too loud. I think, we can't have you living here anymore. That's how my brain thought. It was like, I just don't want to disturb it. And because I had no money, I would clean up the house. So that was and they were filthy fuckers, those guys. And so I had to clean up the house. And so I peed in a Gatorade bottle, and I said to myself, I'm going to do this for 1 year. I'm going to see what I can book for 1 year. And so when my friend asked me, you just went, I went, yeah, I went with basically nothing. And then after like 6 or 7 months, a place opened up above me, and I said, okay, I'll rent that place, but I need a roommate because I can't afford it. And I started teaching boxing at this time. That's how I was making money. I was just teaching boxing, and it slowly grew from that moment. And one late night, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I got back from acting class. What am I going to do? And I got Anthony Robbins tapes. I bought it off an infomercial, and I just started listening to it. The Giant Within. I just needed something to inspire me. And I think I connected with him because he was a big guy too. He was 6'7". So for me, it was one of those things where I can do what he does. I see that I have this gift and this strength to do what he does, but I want to be able to take that confidence into the craft. So I kind of started studying in that way, and it kind of slowly emerged from that. But I needed something to guide me. It wasn't like I knew what the hell I was doing right away. I needed something to guide me and some positivity. And I had some great friends in Vancouver, great friends in acting classes, and it was a forward-moving process. So that's what kind of helped my journey.
Aleks, listen, we are at our time. There is no better way to end this conversation than what you just said there. That, my friend, is real. That, my friend, is a real story of 0 to 100. And again, people listening, there's just no shortcut. There's no shortcut to getting what you want. And I always say, if there's a shortcut, it might be illegal. It might be moral. It's never going to end well. And I encourage people, look, build your success on a sturdy foundation. Climbing up the wrong mountain is like a death sentence. I made a post and I called it The Beast Inside You. And I made this little video, and it's really true, because one of the things I like to do as a pastime is I'll go to graves. I like to go to graveyards and look at like old famous people or iconic people, and I'll just stand by the tombstone and I'm like, what was the difference between this person and just Larry down the street that just really didn't follow his dreams? They both ended in the same place, but one had a massive impact. And I always believe that at the end of our life, two TVs, pun intended for you, Aleks, because you're an actor, but there's two TVs that get played. Somebody says, hey, Aleks, this is your current life that you lived, and this is the life I created you hoping you would live. And you're either going to be really happy and say, I absolutely killed it, or you're going to run away and be like, damn, that sucks, right? And I kind of like to do the barometer that way. Aleks, last question. What can I do for you, man? What can I do for you? I ask all my guests this, and it's a real question. What can I do for you?
Man, you've done so much. I've watched your show. When we first started connecting, especially when you said the pal, Scotty and Lisa, who've been there forever taking care of everybody. But I've seen what you do, and I just want to get the word. Like, I love my work. I love being an actor. But in this journey with Legend Water right now, I just want to get the word out, do some good in the world, do some charity events, hopefully help some people that can look at the QR code and just enjoy a journey with the friends that are a part of Legend and anybody that buys Legend. They're to me, that's family. And I love this journey that I'm on with them. Acting, I just want to keep on doing what I'm doing and having a blast. But for you, what you can do for me is just keep on being you, man. Like, I'm loving your work, and you're kind of inspiring, so I dig it.
I appreciate that, my man. And listen, I got to give you I'm sure people have told you this, but I know you're a busy guy, but somewhere you need to get a podcast up and going, because the content and the way you talk and think, it's like having Aleks on scale. Like, you have a lot to offer people, and it's very aspirational and inspirational. And I love the fact that you're from Canada too, because I'm Canadian, and I'm like, we have such great talent here. And and I say this publicly, I always felt like Canadians, like, I always say sometimes the best people don't do the best job because they don't know how to market themselves or clearly communicate their message. And I feel like sometimes Canadians were reserved. And I'm like, no, we got to promote the talent that we have. And so finding out you're Canadian, it made me happy. And I'm like, and you're from Winnipeg, because everybody's like, are you from Toronto? Are you from Vancouver? I'm like, no, this guy's from Winnipeg. This guy is in the middle, full blown. Okay. So I dig that about you, Aleks. I dig that about you. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Again, you can check out Aleks. We'll put all his information in the show notes. Check out Legends Water. We'll link to the website, and go over to his Instagram. Give him some love. He's doing really, really great things. Aleks, if I could just get you to say, my name's Aleks Paunovic, and I was just on the Ryan Holtz Show Podcast.
My name is Aleks Paunovic, and I just threw down, had an amazing time on Ryan Holtz Podcast.
I love it, man. Aleks, thank you so much.
Kevin O'Leary did it 3 times. I just wanted to make sure I got one in there.
It's so, you know what? It's so funny. Yeah, he did do it 3 times. It was really interesting too, because he was a stickler about it too. He's just like, is that good? Is that not good? He's a good dude. You should try to connect. I actually quite like him. Him and his team are great. So Aleks,
I like him too.
Man, I appreciate you. And then when you're in LA, I got to try to connect with you at some point, because we're always in LA. That city is hopping and doing all kinds of things. So you'll be hearing more. You'll be here.
We're lifers now, brother. We're lifers now,
dude. Yeah, man. I'm here to help you, man. Like, whatever you need. Just make sure though, at the end of this interview, you don't close your phone browser down until it's finished uploading. Do you see a little uploading thing on your end? So once it hits 100, you can close it down. Is there anything else I can do for you, Aleks, man? We'll connect.
No, man. I just think I want to keep this relationship going, and let's keep on chatting and messaging, and hopefully we'll get to see each other in person soon.
Well, and let me know too about your water. So your guys' market right now, are you more heavily in the United States or Canada, or a good split of both?
We're in Canada right now. We've got some really great opportunities in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten the product in some films in the U.S. also. But when we do make that move to the U.S., you'll be the first to know, man.
No, I'm Canadian. I mean, I want to access some of that water, and I'll put it up on the shelf and try to promote it out. I mean, it's a Canadian brand. I'm based in Canada. LA is kind of like a...
Oh, dude, I'm sending you it. I'm going to...
Yeah, no, because I love supporting like Canadian brands.
I'm going to send you a case.
Send me a case. I want to put some up and try it and
I'm
send
sending
it out.
You a case.
And we always give out gift bags too to a lot of our guests as well. So sometimes, like, we had a Canadian hot sauce company and they're awesome. We put in hot sauce, put in water, and you send it out just saying, hey, thanks for coming on the show. And people love these little gift boxes we send out.
Well, I'm definitely going to get you merch and get you water. We'll make that happen.
All right, Alex. I think you're out.
Oh, did I lose you?
You're still there? It's all good. You're cutting out, man. No. We'll connect. Okay. And send me over some. Nora's got your contact. I'll be in your DMs and stuff too. We're gonna promote this as well. So looking forward to connecting with you, man.
Awesome. And real quick, so above in your screen it says 40%. You want me to wait for that to be 100?
So for you, yeah. So just let keep your phone browser open. I'll end the session, but it just has to upload to 100%, and then that's it. And then we just come and take the interview and grab it. Okay.
Okay. It's what happens if it's stuck at 40%?
Probably when I end the session, it's probably not at 40%. It's probably almost done. It might just be like an internet little delay on your side. Because mine's showing at 85%. It shouldn't take more than a couple minutes.
Leave it where it is.
Thanks, Alex. Go enjoy your trip, man.
Great.
Appreciate you, man. Ciao.
See you, brother.
See you, man. Come on.